The mayor's mother was taken to the hospital this afternoon. She's in the hospital with her mother. So I ask all of you to say your prayers, give a prayer for her mother that she survives in the hospital, but we do not know what is wrong with her. So please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First we have the, I'll try it, but I'll speak loudly anyway. We have to approve the minutes of the November 27th workshop. Any changes?
I have nothing.
I'm afraid to talk into this thing. Anyway, you can hear me, Sue, to record? I have two things on page 4, the fourth paragraph, second line. It says trustee Zachary said that it is an accessory apartment. I'd like to insert between is, after the word is, I'd like to insert different from. So it'll read, trustee Zachary said that it is different from an accessory apartment.
Anybody else?
I have one
Nothing
other.
for
One
me.
Oh,
other.
sorry, man.
No, sorry, that's all I have on that.
All in favor of accepting the motion to accept the meeting? The minutes
Motion
of the
to
meeting.
accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have the meeting, the minutes of the January 8th meeting. Any changes?
Nothing for me.
I have none.
I have one thing. First page, where it lists the trustee's name, there's no H in Nicholas. I know another Nicholas Zachary who has an H, so legally I need to keep that H out of there. Although I'm more likely to get him in trouble.
Is that it, Dick?
That's it.
Motion to accept the minutes of the January 8th meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Before we get into the comments from the floor, I'd like to make a statement. I have a few statements on behalf of the board. First and foremost, the rumor of abolishing the police department is not true in any way, shape, or form. This board has never discussed abolishing the police department, and we're not about to abolish the police department.
Are you going to sign Shane in tonight?
If you want, when you speak, please get up. When you're,
Well, why
when
don't you
you're
finish your statement first, please?
I don't know where these rumors come from. I don't know who's making them up, because they're not true.
You have a meeting between Knickerbocker and...
Excuse me,
Well, if you're saying it's not...
excuse me,
Right here, okay?
have some respect for the board.
Have some respect for the people in the village.
Second, since the short notice of Chief Tubbs' retirement, we've been discussing alternatives with the view of saving the taxpayers of Buchanan money.
Yeah, $2.60 a day.
Excuse me, sir.
Everybody that wants, may I?
Yes, please.
People that want to speak will be given an opportunity to come up to the mic. All right? If we're going to conduct a meeting here, you need to let the people that are speaking finish, and when you're speaking, we will let you finish. If you're going to interrupt like that, it's counterproductive.
I repeat, since the short notice that we had of Chief Tubbs' retirement, we've been discussing alternatives with the view of saving the taxpayer money. We've been discussing a part-time police chief, but found out it would have to be approved by civil service. That approval was received in the last 48 hours. As you know, we have a fiduciary responsibility as trustees, and with the coming loss of millions of dollars, we are trying to save the village money. We had previously spoken to our police officers, the 5 police officers we have, about the state police covering the midnight shift. They were against that, and we listened to them. We decided an experienced part-time chief would benefit our community best. It would also give the officers that are here an opportunity to learn from an experienced chief. This will save the village approximately $140,000 a year, or the equivalent of a 6 to 7% tax increase. Or if the taxes are going up after Entergy leaves, we could deduct 6 or 7% from it. Therefore, we plan, pending civil service approval, if the need arises, we will consider making a second sergeant. I'm now going to open the floor. I ask that for the sake of our secretary that you sign your name, your address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I repeat, you want to speak about the part-time job or other issues, that is fine. But we are not eliminating the police department.
I'll start this one.
Did you have the list?
No, I'll sign it first.
Nobody signed it? Excuse me. You want me to go and ask them to sign the items?
I guess they'll just do it as they come up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, do you have a list or is?
No, that's
good.
it. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Good evening.
evening.
Most of you know me. My name is Todd Horgan. I live at 105 Burke Court. I've lived in the village for 35 years.
Can't hear you, Todd.
It's a crummy system. First and foremost, I just want to touch base on a statement you just made. You said that the officers in Buchanan would have the benefit of an experienced chief. They had that for the last 34 years in Brian Tubbs. It's a shame that the mayor couldn't be here tonight. My thoughts and prayers with her and her mother. But I do want to touch on a couple things here. The mayor assured us last meeting that you wouldn't be sneaking a referendum into the March elections. Shortly thereafter, it was reported that the mayor was in discussions with County Executive Latimer about the possibility of a police merger with the county. In that same article, the mayor was again quoted as saying, "We cannot get rid of the police department unless the people want to." I can rest assured right now that these people in this room do not want that. I ask you a simple yes or no question to start off. Is that still the stance of the village?
Without a doubt. We do not want to get rid of
That's
it.
not my question, sir.
What's your question?
The only way to get rid of the police department is through a referendum?
Yes,
Okay, I want that on the record.
so be it.
Thank you. The hiring of a part-time police chief was revealed today, the same day you bring in our newly promoted sergeant to appoint as a provisional chief. In the board's eyes, what exactly is the future of the police department? Can you go on the record right now and look at the residents and assure them that this is not the first step in a backdoor scheme to dismantling the PD without a referendum?
We will not and cannot dismantle the police department without all of you people out here.
Okay.
You people out here will be the people to decide, I should say, excuse me, because there's people watching on television. The 2,300 people in Buchanan will be the people who decide whether the police department could be saved or not saved, or kept, or whatever any language we have.
Understood.
We cannot, in this board, just unilaterally get rid of the police department. It's up to the people, because we're only a force of 5 people. Now, I understand that there's, in some other communities, they did some shenanigans around things. That can't happen here because of the size of the police department. It is definite. We've talked to each police officer. Myself and Cheech have talked to each one of them, been open and forthright. And on the issue of the part-time thing, this was something we were considering, but we didn't know whether civil service would approve of it. Okay. Now, they have now approved of it, and we are having a fiduciary responsibility. Right. We're looking to save the money in that particular direction. If indeed the situation does not work out, and if indeed
What situation is that, sir?
A
If what
part-time
situation doesn't-
police officer.
Okay, would
If-
you hire a full-time,
Chief.
a full-time chief?
Chief, I'm sorry, I'm a mistake.
Correct.
I should be calling it police chief, I'm sorry,
Right.
my mistake. And if it doesn't work out, there's nothing set in stone, number one. But number two, we do not know what the wave of monies that is going to be taken away from us is going to mean to the village. And we have to take into consideration everybody. There are some people who are quite willing to pay double the tax. I wouldn't mind paying double the tax for all the services we get.
Sign
But
me up
there's
for that, too.
a lot of people who can't afford that. And we're not,
Sir,
we're
this
gonna-
isn't a right, this, and
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
like you asked for people to allow you to finish before, I asked that you allow me to finish. and then
Go
you
ahead, I'm
respond.
sorry.
Okay? Buchanan's not a retirement community, okay? I understand that it's becoming a majority of the people that live here are retired people, but Mr. Funchin, you raise your children here, correct?
Mm-hmm,
In the village of Buchanan.
right.
I ask that you give me the opportunity to raise my children with the same benefits that your children had. Okay? And then for everybody up here, I believe everybody up here is retired, right? You want to keep the taxes low? I apologize, sir. Keep working. Appreciate it. I want to keep my taxes low too. Okay? But I want to keep the benefits that you gave your children. I want my children to have the same benefits. Okay? And those benefits of Officer Tubbs riding the streets 25 years ago when my brother was hitting me with a soup can and coming in and busting our chops, that's the small town feel that we want here in the village. Okay, and I hope you still want the same. So you said before that it would save $140,000
Approximately,
for a police chief.
yeah.
And in the grand scheme of things, how much is that? You said that was
It would equal to about, in and about $20,000 for each percent like of a tax increase.
right. So how much per household is that, approximately?
I'm sorry, I'm not
That
following.
$140,000. What is the tax burden on each household in the village?
6 or 7% for the average house would probably be about 120 to 140 a year.
It's 17 cents for every, there's 2,300 people in the village, 17 cents a day.
But that's per individual. That's not per household.
Right.
We pay taxes
Okay.
based on household.
Okay. You know what? Every single thing sounds like that. Every single item that where we try to save money sounds like that.
Right. So is there anywhere else that you're looking to trim the fat or no? Or is it just because it seems like you've just been focused on the police department for the last year? That's the only thing we're discussing.
No,
And I have the utmost respect for every single other department in this village, okay? But why are we only focusing on the
No,
police
no, we're not just focusing
so
on
can
that.
you tell me what the other
We're
ones are?
looking at all things, but this happens to come up because the police chief retired.
No, that's not. The police chief wasn't retired last April when we all came in support of the police department.
You know, but that,
He didn't even announce his retirement yet, sir.
the people came here before to make claim that we were trying to get rid of the police department, not about anything about a police chief. And I reiterate, I do not know how more clearly I can make it, we are not getting rid of the police department. We are trying to save money, and we try to look away. We talk to the police. We talk to the 5 officers, and we proposed a thing. They thought it was a bad idea. We went along with them. So, okay, that's a bad idea. We feel that this is an opportunity to save money. There will be other places in other parts.
$140,000 in the grand scheme is cents.
There will be other places to find and save money in other parts.
Have you even?
Yes, we have. We constantly discuss how we're going to save money. If you come to the budget meetings, you will see how we're trying to save money. We've nickeled and dimed our
Right,
way through everything.
And I get it. You've cut corners on the paving jobs. You've saved $25,000 here and there. I get it. Okay. So, just a couple more things. You said again, $140,000. We won't even touch on that. You went to the state police to ask for coverage for one shift. Is that correct?
Way back a couple of months ago, yes.
What were the discussions between the mayor and the county executive regarding absorption or merging of the police departments? That was
I think that coming from the top down, the initiation was from the governor about shared services,
Right.
and not Governor Latimer, Mr. Latimer was speaking to everybody about shared services. And it's unfortunate that you mention a word or two, and the onus gets put on the mayor. She
I'm
never.
just talking about the headline in the article. Was
I
that
know. Well,
complete?
we have no control over who
Yeah.
writes a headline.
I know that. Trust me. So you went to state police regarding that. Was there any discussion as to the county police covering the village?
Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
We never spoke to the state police about covering this shift. That
You
was,
just-
no. That was a discussion that we had, okay? We presented it, it was shot down, that was the end of
So
it.
you never spoke to them? It was just
We
something
never
that was
spoke,
thrown-
no, that was just an
Okay.
idea that we had,
Okay.
okay? That was just an idea.
So why the state police, not the county? Was that just,
Why
Shot in
would,
the
why?
Why? Because,
why did you go to
I can answer
PBA or
that,
to the
because,
officers with only the state
The
police?
state police, we wouldn't have to send them any funds to cover us.
Okay.
Okay, that was a way we thought maybe we could save some money.
Right.
We never talked to anybody in state police.
So,
When
sir,
we-
you're retired law enforcement, correct?
Yes, sir.
So do you really think that the state police are gonna allocate or focus one car on a location where they're not receiving any funds for? That would be like me calling the state police and say, hey, can you watch my house tonight?
That was one of the reasons why we said forget it,
Okay.
okay? That was it. When I heard this is what it was gonna entail, I was like, you know what? Forget that. And that was the end of it,
Okay.
okay? There was never any dialogue with any state police executives or anything at all. It was just an idea that we threw around,
Right.
and that was it. Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify
that was
that.
that was
Okay?
misunderstanding.
I'm sorry.
And the last thing I'm gonna say is that I think I mentioned in the last meeting when we had this discussion, that the town of Cortland, when they were absolved, or whatever you wanna call it, by the county, my understanding is that the town of Cortland pays $2 million a year to have 2 cars, 1 on each shift, 7 to 3, 3 to 11. They don't have a midnight car, and they have 1 car to cover the entire town, okay? Our budget for the police department is $1.8 million, is that correct?
Kevin, what's the budget about?
Around a little less than 1.6.
Yeah,
with
about
benefits
Right,
and
for
all stuff.
5 officers, 24/7 coverage of a 2 square mile area. I don't get where we're gonna cut the corner, save money, pay somebody else, or we're just gonna not have.
We're
police in
not
this
doing
area.
that, though.
But
We're not.
I'm
do-
just, okay,
yeah.
I'm just throwing that out, because that's the concern of, I think, everybody in this room.
But we're
well,
not
I'll
doing
tell you what, a lot of people are just taking, things that they hear and blowing them out of proportion.
Okay, well,
The fact is, it's very
last
clear,
meeting that we were
let me,
at, sir-
can I
Yeah,
just say this?
Right after, but the last meeting that we were at, you also said that there was never any discussion about not promoting to sergeant and not replacing the chief. Everybody on this board denied that, until the chief stood up here and said that that letter was drafted by the administrator. So I think the board needs to talk to each other.
I think the chief misread that letter. It was about, at that particular time. You got something, Chief?
Yeah. I'm a retired police officer, you know that.
Understood.
Okay? I can tell you how many police officers put in, I'm gonna retire, okay? They don't do it, all right? When Mike Guida put in his retirement pay, I was the first one to say, I don't believe he's gonna do that, okay? There was a discussion about whether we were gonna fill that position, and we were just like, at this time, we weren't gonna do it. Didn't say we weren't gonna do it down the road, okay? Since Mike left, since Tom left, we've hired 2 new cops. We've promoted a sergeant, okay? We've promoted a detective. How is that we're not supporting our police department?
Well, I just want to see that support continue, and I want, why
Well,
can't
you-
why
you
can't
have it
afford-
here. You
why
have
can't
it here.
hire
It's-
a
it's-
full-time chief for a full-time police department?
The deputy mayor just said, we're just trying to save a little bit of money here and just get an experienced guy in. I want
You
Shane
had an
to,
experienced guy. You have an experienced guy that could be chief.
I want Shane to take the test. I want him to do well, okay? Get a little more experience with an experienced police chief. We can revisit this. This isn't etched in stone. Okay? I have nothing but the utmost respect for Shane.
As
I
long
think
as
he's
this isn't a backdoor deal where, like Mount Kisco did.
No,
No,
sir.
we're not doing
Oh,
that.
okay, that's all I
No,
want. I
sir.
want that on the
It's
record.
not.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please,
not.
everybody else coming up, please try to keep your,
Let me,
just one second. Please keep your comments at about 3 minutes. Go ahead.
no, I mean, we, as you say, we went through this before about the whole referendum thing. And each board member has their own opinions and their own views. And I'm going to let you know what my view is. Okay, as you said, I was fortunate enough to move to this village 26 years ago. I've enjoyed raising 2 children here in Buchanan, who both went to Hendrick Hudson High School. My belief and my support is for local policing. It has always been that. no matter what the state or the county may offer, we as taxpayers are going to pay. We're going to pay. So the question of, do we pay for what we have now as opposed to pay for something that we don't know is going to turn out? I'm for, let's keep what we got. Okay. And that goes for this trustee who is a taxpayer who's been here for 26 years. So whatever the letter someone may have gotten, I have not seen that letter. I don't know who it might be signed by, but as a trustee of this village, home rule, having our own, is the way forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Newrouter, 182 4th Street. Can you guys hear this? Walter Newrouter, 182 4th Street. I would just like you guys to just reconsider a little bit with the not promoting Shane and bringing somebody in from the outside for a part-time position. I know Shane's put a lot of effort, a lot of love into this community, not just since he's taken over as acting chief already, but prior to that. I think he's a great fit for it. I think that he's made this community stronger and better. He's built a wonderful relationship with the community. It's a part of community policing, and I believe that we're going to end up weakening that if we bring with morale, also with the community. So please just reconsider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good evening. My name's Elizabeth Fiella. I live in Craft Lane. It just disappoints me that the board wants to hire a part-time police chief with experience. Brian Tubbs, he didn't have experience. He started in Buchanan as a police officer, sergeant, chief. And I think you guys forgot that he started, that's where he started from. He started in Buchanan. Shane started in Mount Vernon. Shane didn't come to Buchanan, start off in Buchanan. Shane started in Mount Vernon and worked in Mount Vernon and came here to Buchanan. Shane has been an outstanding police officer. The kids in the community know who Shane is. When they see him, they wave to him, they say hi to him, and all the other guys and girl. And for you guys to want to hire somebody, a stranger, to come in our community to give them to be a police chief, I think is absolutely wrong. It's ludicrous because Shane's been working hard. The last couple months that Chief Brian Tubbs has been gone, Shane has picked up a lot of the slack and has done so much for this village. And it's sad that you're saying, oh, experience. Brian Tubbs, again, who I love dearly as a great friend, started in Buchanan. And why can't Shane, who started in Mount Vernon, who transferred to Buchanan, why can't you guys give him a chance? Brian had a chance. Why can't Shane have a chance? And I really hope you guys consider thinking about Shane because he knows the community, he knows the people, and people have a lot of respect for him.
Thank you.
And I want to say one more thing. I grew up in Ossining, and I'm proud to say I grew up with Shane. Our fathers worked together for many years in Con Ed. And if there's anybody more than deserving to be a chief, it's Shane. Good night.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is not a treatise on Shane. This is the board looking for ways to save money. This is a small group, and we're very happy to hear your opinions, but we have a responsibility to 2,300 people. My feeling, I don't know how the rest of, I'm not sure how the rest of the board feels about this, is that you guys should be deciding this, not us. We are your representatives. We need to let you decide this, but you are 2,300 people. My feeling is that we should put all the figures on paper and put it to a public vote. Not a referendum to disband the police. Don't confuse it with that. It's not that, but that's my feeling, that we want your input, and we want more input. So I would personally favor hearing from all the residents in a public vote.
I just want to add also, too, you're worried about saving money? You guys, everybody except you, live in the community here. And I understand you want to do this. Then why don't you guys also cut your salaries to support the village, to help the village with their financial needs?
Everything's on the table.
Well, because,
Everything we
everybody wants to cut.
We could do
so
it like the
we
federal
should,
government and
you
cut
know,
those 10%
You know,
straight across the
you do
board.
this because you want to do it. So I think you guys should also contribute back to the
I have
village.
no problem.
Yeah, I disagree. I think I should be getting more than I get,
I disagree.
okay?
I disagree. You choose to do it.
Oh, maybe
on
I'm
up.
nothing, so run against me and
Come on
win.
up.
Go right ahead.
Jeremy Basso, 119 Bannon Avenue. I have a couple questions that I would like to clarify in order to... I have some questions for Kevin first so that I could just qualify a couple of my points. Simple, easy. The budget's $6 million, give or take a year here?
6.3.
Okay, so 140,000, the budget is can you hear me? The budget is $6 million, $6.2 million,
6.3, yeah.
3. So $140,000 is nowhere near 6 or 7%. Right, $140,000.
No, I said, I'm sorry, it's 6 per 7. It represents, like if we were going to raise taxes, it would represent, in order to pay for that, we'd have to raise taxes 6 or 7%, not...
I'm missing the math. $140,000.
Jeremy, for every 1%, usually when the budget goes up, it's about $20,000. So if you add $20,000 to the budget, it's usually about a 1% tax increase, just to clarify.
No, the total budget is not all tax assessment. There's money that comes in from other things. So it's, that 1% figure is based on the taxable portion of the total
What's the
budget.
taxable portion of the total?
It's,
Usually what goes out in the tax levy, I think in the last budget was about $2 million, a little over $2 million.
Okay.
The rest comes in
That
revenue,
makes a
pilot.
totally
whatever.
different component for math. Thank you. So the average resident pays $1,200 a year in tax here, right?
Correct.
And 6 to 7% of 1,200 is what, like $50?
84 bucks. I think
$84 a year?
7% is $84.
A year.
Correct.
So, thank you, because my math, back of the napkin math was based on the total budget, not on the taxable portion of it. To touch on a couple of points that have me a little concerned from what we're discussing here. I mentioned the memo that was denied across the board of ever existing that Kevin wrote. If you don't have a copy, maybe ask Kevin for it. But the letter clearly stated that the village does not intend to hire or promote. It was called a rumor when we sat in the meeting, and it was not disbanded as a rumor until I brought it up, and then the chief stood up and confirmed that it did in fact exist. So I don't think that the residents of the community that are in support of the police, which I don't think there's been a shortage of support in any capacity whatsoever, has anything to do with rumors. It has to do with consistent ideas that have been brought up and then denied by the board in some capacity. Mr. Jackson, you have indicated a complete and total support for the police. Mr. Function, you've just indicated a complete and total support for the police. Mr. Zachary has done the same. Cheech as well, Mr. Pasquale, you've done the same. And in the past, Teresa, Mrs. Knickerbocker, has done the exact same. As a board, you are tasked with jobs that I don't envy. I've mentioned that before. It's not easy. But your job is not to save money necessarily. It's to come up with ideas that are available for savings so that people can decide if that's the route we want to go. Choosing a part-time chief without giving the village or the residents the opportunity to discuss or to vote or to share our concerns, it's not your job to make a unilateral decision. It's your job to explore the different options that are available so that we can decide how we would like our leaders to make decisions on our behalf. Not necessarily making them and saying, well, Shane, you need more experience. We don't want to hire you for that. I don't think that it's appropriate, based on historical support for the police as recently as a year ago, to simply state that we're going to hire this part-time chief because we owe you the right to save money. That's not exactly what we're looking for. We're looking to make sure we don't have frivolous spending, but I would say supporting the police and creating a full-time police chief is in support of everything that every person who has come forward, for the majority of people that I've heard from in the village, are in support of a police department and accordingly a full-time police chief. So I applaud the exploration of cost savings if we were to join the county, and if the county was to come in, I applaud understanding what my options are. Do we disband the police and join the county? What's the savings if it happens? For me, double my taxes, I'm okay with it. I want the village to be exactly what it is today. And I also think there may be a tremendous amount of benefit to our village if we had a higher tax base, because we have a tremendous amount of absentee landlords who are running businesses based on the fact that they have no incentive to improve the value of their real estate because they don't want to pay additional tax because they're getting guaranteed money from another source that does not have anything to do with market-based rates, and it creates an opportunity for them to run a business with an artificially low tax base. I'm not saying everyone needs to get their taxes raised. What I'm saying is the quality of this village is based on the level of services that are provided, and you have a very difficult job in helping us determine where we can and can't save and letting us make the decision. But there's absolutely no indication in any capacity that a part-time chief, for what amounts to a handful of dollars a month, is going to be the appropriate decision for the entire village. But you do have to do your job to explore what it would be, and then listen to the people to decide.
Thank you.
I have one other question. If they decide to hire a part-time chief against the wishes of what it seems to be most of the people that showed up here today, because there's normally like 6 people at these meetings unless it's something exciting, right? Is that reversible, and what is the obligation of the village to maintain and honor the choice? So if they hire this part-time chief, how long do we own that contract? Is it breakable in 30 days? Is it breakable in 2 years? What is the standard employment agreement for a part-time chief?
We haven't looked into that. What's the
haven't.
standard? No.
I mean, we would presumably get into a contract, could be a year.
Okay,
Thank you. Anybody else?
I read out House 241 Westchester Avenue. One quick question. So the agenda item that's on there now, is that not being done?
That's correct.
Okay. You talk about credibility and understanding what the board is doing. I came to the meeting last month, okay? Last month, there was an agenda item to appoint I think it was worded as a temporary police chief or something like that. It was on the agenda when we walked in here. Shane was sitting in the back, I assume ready to be sworn in as a temporary police chief. 10 minutes before the meeting starts, the mayor comes in, asks Shane to go outside. Whatever happened, next thing you know, she comes in, it's wiped off the agenda. Today, it's on the agenda. You said there's some last minute thing that happened, and all of a sudden it's not on the agenda. This kind of thing kind of pushes to the residents that there's something going on here, a lack of transparency. Why are these decisions being made the day of the meeting?
Well,
It's the second time this has happened.
The first time,
I mean, sure, go
Jerry,
ahead.
the first time there was a conglomeration of civil service rules that nobody on the board really understands. I worked for the federal government, and it was a lot less bureaucratic. I didn't have somebody else telling us other than from the president on down what to do, but coming from all different levels. We have to go by the rules of the civil service in Westchester County, who goes by the rules in Albany. So we didn't know. You've got, in my profession in law enforcement, we would promote a temporary person. They would be called temporary. We weren't allowed to do that with civil service in Westchester County. So, you know, some of the rules, some of the things that happened, it seems that way to you. I apologize if it seems that way to you, but we get caught up in all this tanglement of what we can do and what we can't do. And we're stuck trying to figure out what to do. I agree with you. It shouldn't have. We want to be transparent as possible as with what's going on. And when I say as possible, we have to keep names of people out, and we in other words, if we're discussing something with an individual employee of the village, it should not be knowledgeable to all the people in the village. I hope that gives some sort of an answer. We're not trying to go around it. That's why part of this meeting here today was to let you know that was our intentions is to look for a part-time police chief who is experienced. Now, nobody in this village has even taken the test for a police chief. We don't even know that anybody in the police who takes the test can get the job. It has to be cleared by civil service. So there's a lot of things we don't know on the board. We're not civil service experts.
Sure, I understand that. So that was the last meeting. I mean, the question is like tonight. It's on the agenda. I assume that the goal was to appoint Shane tonight as the police chief, as a provisional police chief. And now it's not. So again, it's a meeting. It's whatever happened in the last, I guess there was some, did you come to this decision that you don't want to do that? And that is that a civil service issue too?
We always discuss the part-time police chief. And we were considering to do that all along when Brian might leave, considering if everything stayed the same. But he decided to retire in the end of the year. So that brought up the issue at that particular time. What do we do? We didn't really have anybody at that particular time qualified, because you have to, the state and the county said you have to take the police chief's examination. So we're kind of caught in that band. Plus, we were caught in a situation where none of us really knew about this stuff, how to particularly go forward on it.
So what prompted, I guess my question is, what prompted the sudden change today?
I think that for looking for, hopefully it sounds like it didn't get through, we wanted to be more transparent.
So up until sometime today, we were going to appoint Shane as a provisional police
Well, up
chief.
until we found out about the civil service permitting us to hire a part-time police chief. And then, excuse me?
You said earlier that was 48 hours ago, not today.
Right. It was,
remained on the agenda.
but we can't, but in order to have a meeting with the public, it has to be advertised. We can't just, at drop of a hat, I can't tell you, oh, tomorrow morning we're going to have a meeting. That's not legal.
I understand. I guess we don't have to go back and forth and round on it. My problem is just the way I'm looking at it is there's 2 times in a row that decisions were made on the day of the meeting. It just doesn't look good. It looks like you're trying to skirt transparency at the meeting, because if it happens the day of the meeting, it's harder to get people here. But thankfully we have social media and word gets out, and we have a full house here tonight, thankfully. My only other question was, this is something that you brought up at the workshop meeting. Goes into a little bit about what Mr. Basso was saying. You had brought up a good idea, and this is what you should probably do as soon as you can. Get out to the village residents a fact sheet, put it on the website, get it out to each village resident. If Entergy fully closes, we know so far it looks like that's what's going to happen, and we lose all that tax revenue, but we keep our services exactly the same, what's it going to cost each homeowner? You had said that, and I thought that was a very good idea, because that allows us as homeowners and property owners to look and say, all right, if I keep everything, all my services, hire the full-time police chief, promote Shane, like I believe we should, what's that going to cost me? And that number should be pretty easily attainable. I know that the Entergy agreement phases in phases, but we could even just go right to the end and say, all right, we have no revenue from them anymore. Let's be hypothetical. What's it going to cost the average taxpayer? You may get an entire room full of people that say, do it. I'll keep the services, and that it is what it is. Or you may get people who are saying, you know what, if you do that, I can't afford to live here, and then we got to really start making some decisions, maybe putting stuff up for a referendum. But getting that number out there, I think, would be a good start. Get it out to the residents. Say, this is what it's going to cost to keep everything just as it is, with projected, benefits, costs, and retirements and all that. This is it. And I think you'll get a better feeling as to what people will accept or can accept.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Reed, let me just, first of all, commend you for your participation and understanding. As you said at that meeting, there was talk from a lot of different circles about what we should do going forward. And the idea of changing what's on the agenda is somewhat troubling to me. and I'm going to say that publicly, as one trustee. We need someone to act as acting chief. That's the fact. Whether or not the civil service was going to permit us or not permit us to have a part-time chief is somewhat irrelevant to the position and the situation right now. And it's a little troubling that we can't get past that. But again, Shane is the most senior person with the experience necessary. I'm just one vote. I would be voting to move with that tonight. But again.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because I think you have a room full of people here that are right on board with it.
The last minute change was somewhat of a surprise to me. So I appreciate your steadfastness.
I appreciate your comments on that, too. Thank you. Thanks, Dwayne.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Diane Tangent, 240 Catherine Street. I walked in here tonight completely shocked because I thought there would be 6 people here like there usually are. I came for another entirely different issue. And I have listened objectively, and I certainly am for the police department too. But I also feel like there's been a lot of disrespect in this room tonight. And it really does bother me that you who have worked so hard, and this is a very, very difficult task that you have. Somebody used the word task already. And I do think you have to look at everything and see where you might cut some things. When your household budget changes and you have your hair done twice a week, you might only have to have it done once a week. When you might have to do some changes. And I think maybe it is time that the board looks. I'm for Shane too. I don't know which police officer is Shane. I'm not, it has nothing to do with that. Hi, Shane. I see you when I walk. I wave at all of them. But I do want to say you do have a responsibility. There are a lot of people in this village. I've lived here my entire life, and I'd like to stay here. I'm really mostly worried about the school budget, but it will be a difficult for my husband and I commend you and I thank you.
Thank you very much.
A quick comment. I personally, first of all, let me
Back up from the mic.
let me backtrack on the what I said. I'm not looking for more money as a trustee, but the trustees do work hard and they really get involved. And $6,000 a year that each trustee gets, to me, is a stipend. It's not a big deal. If we gave up all of our salaries, you're talking about $24,000 a year. It's not, it's not a huge amount. So I didn't mean to imply that I want more. It does take some, it takes some devotion here. I think that these people here, put in a lot of time, and some of us that work get stretched thin sometimes. I'd say about exactly half of the board works. We have 2 full-timers, and I work part-time since I retired a year or 2 ago. So it was not meant to imply that we need more money, but to appreciate that we put in a lot of time. I did not mean to snap. I got pissed and I snapped. I apologize for that. But I want to say also that I do know people on both sides of this. I personally have no problem with it and would rather pay more taxes and keep the police personally as a resident. But I have to separate and listen to everybody. And I have had residents tell me if their taxes double, they might have to sell their house and get an apartment somewhere. But you have to acknowledge there are people on both sides of this. They're all, we have, the nature of this village is we're not Chappaqua and we're not a ghetto. But we have people that are pretty comfortable and we have people that just about get by. And we have to acknowledge that. And we as a board have to pay attention to that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sign in there, Bob.
Sure.
Diane, after the meeting, could you put your name on that list, too? Thank you.
That's okay. I'm Robert Lupica, 169 Cortlandt Street, Buchanan. I commend all of you for doing this job. Obviously, it's a tough job. And just what you said, you should get paid more money. Everybody on this board should get paid more money. There's no question. You give yourself time and effort into this job. It's more than just coming here once a month. So they all should get more money. Everybody should get more money. You put in a good effort. But my problem is, what are we doing to go forward? Looking to cut the police department. What are we saving? I missed a little bit before. What are we saving to cut the police department? Has anybody said that number?
You're not cutting the police department.
No, if you did. Because that's,
What?
I don't know if
what's
they
the
said
police
it,
budget?
but the whisper is, you guys want to get rid of the police department. Just let
No,
you
we
know
don't.
what residents are talking.
But we don't.
I know, but I'm letting you know what they're saying. Since the transparency issue came up,
Mm-hmm.
what they're saying is you guys want to get rid of them. And what they're also saying is what Mount Kisco did, is they brought in the part-time chief and then disbanded the whole entire police department.
That's
Mount
not
Kisco.
exactly what they did.
What'd they do?
They also kept court officers and parking
Yeah,
enforcement.
but the
which
police
is part of-
department, but the police department.
No, that's part of their police department. So
Yeah.
what they did was they didn't have to go to referendum
That-
because they didn't
that's-
abolish. That is completely different here.
Well, I don't
Not
know, but
happening
what,
here.
is there transparency? This is what they're saying. I'm
I
giving
know
you
what
what
people
the
are saying.
town
I
is,
get it.
what the village is saying. They're saying that this could be an issue of what Mount Kisco did without the referendum. To get rid of the police department, you bring in a part-timer. Then you don't have to have a referendum, and then you just do what you want and get rid of the police department.
That's not true, though.
This is what they think. Because your transparency.
Oh, so now
the
that we said
internet-
otherwise, do they think otherwise?
I'm letting you know what some of the residents think, and we've talked about it. Okay, so the real
There's
question.
no change in the police department unless a referendum is
No.
put on the ballot.
You don't
No
have to have that. You can get a
N-
part-time.
No.
Part-time police?
For the disbandment of
Yes.
the police
Yeah,
department,
correct.
it cannot be done.
Oh, I realize that.
And I just said, Bob, as one trustee and
Yes.
one vote,
You're here
I'm
for it.
totally against that.
I said-
Okay,
I
and
understand that.
I've said that for the last 5-6 months. I've argued with the mayor on that.
But you're
So-
only one vote.
All right,
And
all
again-
right. Hey, let's, hey,
You know,
let's not have,
so
Okay.
what happened in Mount Kisco
Yeah.
is not apples to apples, okay?
But it could be.
no.
No, it can't
Because
be.
Mount Kisco kept their police force. If we got rid of the police force here, there's no police force left.
Well, they brought in the county.
There's no
They
police
split it up.
force.
They kept traffic officers, they kept a certain
Yeah,
part of
but
their
they got rid of the
department.
14 guys.
We don't have that
County came
separation
in
of
and took it
departments.
over.
And by the way, everybody on this board wants to keep the police.
Then why wouldn't we bring in Shane as the chief?
We want to keep the police
Why are we all
department.
here? That's the real question. Why are we all here again? And to go forward, instead of looking to cut, why are we not developing? Why don't we create a tax base instead of trying to reduce our services? And I don't think anybody's ever talked about that.
We have,
On these meetings I came to, those master plan meetings, nobody talked about creating. We talked about taking down, reducing. There's my problem. We have developers that don't want to come here. I got a friend that wants to, him and his buddy want to buy the property across from the church. I told him don't do it. Another person told him don't do it. It won't get passed. Reggie Selleck's place. Nothing's getting done. He had 2 buyers, he told me. Nothing's getting done. What are we doing to go forward for our tax base?
Why? I want to know why.
I don't know. We
What?
don't allow people to develop.
No, I
No,
mean,
No.
that's a,
Yeah, but where are you
that's
No.
getting that
no,
information from?
No. I mean, you know,
Where?
the hearsay, Bobby, come on.
Talk to Reggie. Did you talk to Reggie?
Any application coming before the planning board, this board, is going to be given
Wait, how
serious
much building
consideration.
have we had going on in this village?
No, I agree with you.
How
I
much
would,
have we had?
Bobby, I agree
If
with
Al
you.
Donahue didn't allow the Dunkin' Donuts to go in, right? And then Val Santucci to build, what development do we really have?
all right, let's
Yeah.
keep,
Right?
let's keep this
Okay.
discussion
I'm
to the
just-
police.
I'm just saying,
all
why
right?
don't we
Yeah.
develop instead of cutting?
That's a great idea.
Why don't we look to develop? We got a piece of property on the corner of Blakely and 9. They offered that to Jimmy McHale for $400,000. How about give it to him? Let him develop it. Put it on the tax roll. You wouldn't have an empty piece of lot there with rock. Who else is going to take it?
It's in the village, but we don't own
Yeah. Listen, we're here to discuss on the...
Shane.
No, it's a, you make it, it's a good,
Shane,
it's a
we're
good
talking
point.
about
It's a good
cutting.
point, but it's not exactly what
I
we're
know,
doing.
but we're
right.
talking about cutting. We're trying to save some money on a
Right.
chief instead of getting a part-time chief instead of a full-time chief. We're trying to reduce here, we're trying to cut here.
The development point is a good point. I personally bring it up quite often.
There's certain things we can do.
And, you know, it is a good point, but let's try to stick to what
I mean,
we're
be
talking
favorable.
about.
Let
I see how
business-
you're connecting it, but let's try to stick to what we're talking
Well,
about.
the point is, we're cutting. We talk about cutting and cutting and cutting.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Do we ever talk about building and building and building?
Yep.
Smart growth.
It's, you know, even 10 lots getting developed might only replace a quarter of what we get from Entergy, by the way.
I realize that, but if you look at it, Entergy leaving is not going to hurt this village that much. It's going to hurt us in the school tax. So what we really need is the town of Cortland to figure it out, not this village.
So you didn't help very much when somebody said they wanted to buy that lot by telling them, don't buy it.
And I said, if you're willing to wait 10 years or so, then you can develop it.
That's a bit of a stretch, huh?
You think? I'll give you another.
Well, it depends what
All
they
right,
want. Depends what they want to do there, but it is a different
I'll leave you
topic.
with
Yeah,
this one
I mean,
point.
we gotta have a discussion here on the police
Yes.
force, not on
But
development.
on town of Cortland, one point. The ShopRite, you know how long it took them to build the ShopRite? It took them 10 years to go through planning. 10 years to go through planning.
Thank
We
you.
have that time.
Anybody else?
Brian Calabro. I live on 226 Travis Avenue. I'm a resident and business owner. And I support Shane and our local police. Sometime last year, I get a phone call from Shane. He sees a guy on my property, calls my cell phone right away, just make sure to see if the guy was supposed to be there or not. There's not very many people that can drive by a business and know who's supposed to be there. He knows. He knows my car. He knows my brother's car, my dad's. He knows the people that work for me, my family members. He knows these people. He knows who belongs on my property. And he can stop somebody. So to disrespect them by not bringing him in as chief of police, I don't know what direction or where the board is going with this. You're going to hire on a part-time police chief because he didn't take the exam yet. So if he takes the exam, are you going to hire him on as police chief? Like, how long are you keep stringing us along? What's his straight up answer? Where are you guys going with this? Just trying to keep it on point to what you want us to talk to about on the agenda.
If the part-time police chief is successful, we will keep a part-time police chief.
Who's the part-time police chief?
It will be announced in the Westchester area and wherever we need to announce it to get an experienced part-timer. But that probably would be a retired police chief.
From our area.
From the general area, yeah.
From somebody that worked with Buchanan and knows everybody, knows all the residents.
Well, Westchester County, I'd say.
Big county.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Chappaqua and, you know.
I understand that, sure,
and
yeah.
Buchanan.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So if Shane takes the exam, and I'm sure he'll pass, are you guys going to bring him in as a police chief and have a little respect for the guy?
I don't think he'd want a part-time police chief job.
So
yeah, I'm not. I shouldn't be saying for
the nickels and dimes you guys are saying we're saving a year, and you're saying our residents, we have the ability to choose. Shouldn't it be our choice if we want the part-time guy I don't know, or the full-time guy that I do, for a couple dollars a day?
I think what Nick has said before is I think what the people in this room don't realize that there are a lot of people in this village who $84 would mean they might have to eat dog food instead of regular food.
Well, stir it up good, I guess, because they're not standing here right now. I am, and these people are here because they're concerned.
Many of them are watching this on television. Many.
If-
lot more than come to our meetings.
Then instead of spending $200 a month on a cable bill, come down here. It's free. You know, if you want to go tit for tat, I got the answers. You got to come up with something better than that.
No, let me just say, what you just described, you can't put a price on him knowing your cell phone number, your residence, your business. You can't put a price on that. And that is what small town America has, and that's what we have here. And we're going to hold on to that. We are going to hold on to that. So the way you described it is not only for the residents here, but the residents out in TV land want that. And if we have to pay more for it, that's what we're going to have to do. That's what we're going to have to do. But as far as this, this agenda item for tonight, I'm only one vote. I say go forward with it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Warren Bonds. I live at 220 Westchester Avenue on Westchester Avenue there. My problem is, you guys had this on the agenda last month and this month. Doesn't anybody do their homework before they put stuff on agendas? You know, looking for a part-time chief compared to making Shane a temporary chief. Nobody did their homework prior to even thinking about it.
I tried to explain that before about the civil service and everything.
Yeah, but before you actually put it on paper, nobody said, hi, civil service, how does this work? We have a retired law enforcement officer who does should know something about civil service, being in civil service, because myself, I work in civil service, and I know that within the law, if there's nobody on the list, you can appoint somebody in that position until they either take the test, pass or fail, or somebody else does, and you can hire off the list.
I agree with you.
So nobody did the homework prior?
No, that when the civil service gave us the go-ahead for a part-time police chief, that's what we decided to do.
Well, that's not what I asked. I asked, last month he was on to be appointed as the temporary police chief. Okay? Nobody did their homework prior to putting it on the agenda?
Which one you're talking about? Last month?
No, I think there were the things that we were looking into, having to do with the part-time chief, having to do with civil service, and the information did not come in time. So we were delaying to get that information.
Why didn't we just say, okay, it's not on the agenda this month, and we'll wait until we find out the information?
Well, it got put on the agenda, and then other information came in, I think is what happened. And if we got civil service to okay going with the part-time chief, then we needed to review that as a board and vote on it. If we're going to do that, it would not be fair to Shane to make him an interim, a provisional chief, and then tell him 2 months later we're doing something different. And I said, it's not a treatise on Shane. It is what we are looking at in the best interest of the whole village. And some of that information came in late. So it was already on the agenda, and then I don't know exactly when that information came in. It was relayed to me
You guys
just...
keep trying to explain.
Well,
my comment
that's
was...
my understanding of what it is.
Yeah, my comment was, if you didn't have the information that you needed, right? Why was it even put on the agenda in the first place?
That's a good question that I don't have an answer for.
So people aren't doing their homework.
Well, maybe the person that can answer that isn't here tonight, I don't know.
Who should be here,
Well,
even though
she had a health
medical
problem.
even though she has a medical problem in the family.
Well, she's the only one with her mom. That's a separate issue.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
But nobody, we all have cell phones.
Your comment is well taken. I agree with you. Your comment is well taken, and it's logical, and it's...
Yeah, because it's been happening.
Yeah, no,
constantly happens.
Yeah. So, again, the person who orchestrated that can't, so...
But I work in law enforcement also, and people do have cell phones, and people text constantly all day long. The board doesn't text with each other saying, oh, this is what we're talking about. We do have a village administrator who should be able to contact whoever they need to contact, even speaking with the mayor, and say, listen, this is what's going on. Do we hold it? Do we not hold it?
Yeah.
You know, there's gotta be better kind of communication around here.
I agree with
Thank you. Anybody else? We're going to take a break now till we go on with the regular meeting.
Oh.
We're all done?
Thank you very much. If you want to leave or you want to stay, you can.
Everybody's done that wanted to say something? Everybody's done? Yes?
Yeah,
Yes?
yeah. I asked them. Nobody said.
Okay, all right, just checking.
Okay, thank you.
Just checking.
Welcome back. Please take your seat.
Yeah, the rest of the week is 40s.
Yeah. It's supposed to rain tomorrow.
Next on the agenda is a resolution appointing inspectors of election. Whereas the next general election for officers will be held on Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. Whereas it is necessary to have inspectors of election, now be it therefore resolved that the following are hereby appointed inspectors of registration and elections. Be it further resolved that the salaries are to be paid as follows: the chairperson, $195 a day, the inspector, $180 a day, and the alternate, $90 a day. On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We now have an IMA with the city of Peekskill. Whereas an assistant building inspector of the city of Peekskill suffered an injury which temporarily prevents him from performing all of his duties as an assistant building inspector, whereas the city of Peekskill desires to temporarily utilize the services of the Village of Buchanan building inspector to assist the city in performing the duties of the assistant building inspector for that period of time when the assistant building inspector is medically incapable of performing all of his regular duties, and whereas the Village of Buchanan desires to temporarily provide the services of its building inspector to the city of Peekskill on a part-time basis, and whereas Section 119-0 of the General Municipal Law authorizes municipalities to enter into agreements for the performance of their respective functions, powers, or duties, and whereas the city of Peekskill agrees to compensate the Village of Buchanan at an hourly rate for services provided, and whereas the city shall provide appropriate liability insurance to cover any and all liability that may arise under the terms of this agreement, now be it therefore resolved that the mayor be and hereby authorized to execute said intermunicipal agreement and any other necessary documents between the Village of Buchanan and the city of Peekskill for the purposes of sharing building services. On motion?
No, not yet. It's just a little discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Discussion.
discussion?
Yeah.
I'll get towels.
It'll sit.
Sure?
Yeah.
Don't want to
We
short circuit.
won't electrocute.
Okay.
My question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah,
Sorry.
my question is how open-ended is this in terms of his duration? And if he's doing this Monday through Friday with us, is he doing it on Saturdays with them? I mean, it needs to be a little bit more specific.
No, he's doing 2 half-days a week, on Friday and Monday. And it to be ended by either side within 30 days. The IMA was attached.
I don't know why I didn't get that sheet.
Oh, you don't have the IMA?
No.
Should be there.
Should be at the back of it.
Mhm.
Mine is.
Okay, all right, so 30 days, half a day.
2 half-days.
Okay.
No, it's not for 30 days.
No.
You can terminate it
Within
with
30
days
days.
notice.
Okay.
One side to the other.
Okay. And,
And they're paying his salary.
right, but look, I guess my biggest question is, can we afford to let him do this, or right now, or what? I mean, it's
Right now, while it's quiet, the building department, it's slower in the wintertime generally, so
Okay.
yes.
So
You know,
the-
and this is really a temporary thing, you know, they asked for our help due to an injury sustained to one of their employees.
all right. That's the only question I had.
Nick, you
Yeah,
have
I
something?
just wanted to ask if the, this is all wet. I just wanted to ask if the compensation is prorated based on the building inspector's salary? Is that basically all it is?
Yes.
So,
based on the salary.
and then, okay. So,
And they'll cover all the liability, of course, while he's working there.
okay.
Any other discussion? On the motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next we have the Justice Court report received. The police reports received. The attorney's report.
I have nothing for you.
Thank you. The administrator's report.
I only have a couple, one thing, we're kind of getting to that last push on the water meters. I think we're down to a little over 100, so I just want to remind everybody out there who hasn't got their water meter changed to make an appointment. So I know another round of letters were sent out just to the people who haven't done it. That's all I have.
The mayor is not here, and hopefully things are going better for her, that her mother is getting better. I will have to say that Teresa does an awful lot of work in this village, and I genuinely thank her for her services. Many times it's underappreciated. She's going practically every day to meetings that benefit this village. There's a lot of time spent doing that. So I wish the best for her mother. As far as myself is concerned, we're in a lot of different meetings this in January talking about the budget. We had pre-budget meetings and discussed where monies were going to be spent, and we will now get down to the nitty-gritty. And please, everybody, be safe out there. I'll start with Cheech. What do you have?
Oh, thank you. Just on a nice note, wish everybody, all the lovely ladies in the village, a happy Valentine's Day. I'll wish you a happy Valentine's Day, too, okay? You gotta make me laugh when I'm trying to read this. Anyhow, I have nothing really to say other than I'd like to just read our police blotter that Shane was so kind enough to write out and give to me. On January 1st, 2019, at approximately 1:40 a.m., Officer Tiernan responded to a village resident's noise complaint and possible fight. Upon arrival, Officer Tiernan spoke to the resident, who advised that the party was ending and people were leaving. Officer Tiernan assisted in clearing the area. January 9, 2019, approximately 2:15 p.m., Sergeant Farrell arrested a suspect on an active arrest warrant out of the village. The suspect was processed and arraigned in village court. Suspect was released on his own recognizance and is due back in village court. January 15th, for those of you who don't know, that's actually Elvis Presley's birthday, but I just might throw that in there. Okay. January 15th, approximately 11:50 a.m., Sergeant Farrell conducted a vehicle and traffic stop on Albany Post Road for a traffic infraction. Further investigation revealed that the operator had a suspended driver's license in the state of New York. The operator was subsequently arrested for aggravated unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle and issued traffic summonses. January 15th again, approximately 6:27, Detective Loshner received a call of a missing child. Detective Loshner immediately launched an investigation in an attempt to locate the child. Assisted by Officer Buddy, the child was subsequently located and turned over to a parent. Excellent. On January 18th at 9:10 a.m., Officer Palmero responded to a report of an overdose. Upon arrival, the subject was not breathing. Officer Palmero quickly assessed the situation and administered Narcan and was able to get the suspect to become responsive. Officer Palmero should be commended for his quick response, assessment, and life-saving actions. And the police also asked me to read this, which I will. The Village of Buchanan Police Department would like to congratulate ex-Fire Chief Stuart Bayer on the completion of his term as Fire Chief of Buchanan Fire Department. Thank you for your professionalism and dedication to the Village of Buchanan. We join the community in congratulating and welcoming the new Fire Chief, Jeffrey Fiella, who's sitting right here. First Assistant Chief Andrew Roush and Second Assistant Chief Alwyn Park. And congratulations. That's all I have.
Nick?
Thank you. A couple of things. One thing is, I want to remind people to take advantage of one of the splendid things that we have going for us in our area here, which is at this time of year when the river is frozen, there are eagles all over the place. And it's a regal bird. It's an amazing thing to see. There's always a couple around in the summer. There's a few that nest in the area, but up and down the Hudson, hundreds and hundreds of eagles. I saw about 10 out at George's Island. I've been out to Lens Cove Park, our park over there on Broadway, a couple of times. Saw a few. If you walk out to the point by the bench at Lens Cove Park, you'll almost always see one or two or three sitting in the trees off to the left. They're an amazing thing to see. Sometimes you get a good close look, but this is something that we have at this time of year. Get out and enjoy the outdoors, enjoy Lens Cove, go to Inver Plank, George's Island, anywhere, but it's a great thing to see. I like to mention sometimes what I personally believe we'll be doing at the next workshop. So that people know if they want to come, because the workshops are not recorded, you would not know, but these meetings do go on the website and online. We are looking at some potential parking restrictions on Route 9A, which require state DOT approval, but the board would need to develop a specific plan of what they'd like to do to submit to the state. I don't think it'll be hard to get their approval, but we need to have our plan first. I'm asking the board members and the administrator that this goes on. I think it was already intended to be on the agenda, but to make sure it is on the agenda for the next workshop so the board can take a look at that area and specifically address, do we want to completely eliminate parking? Do we want to allow cars on one side? Do we want to have certain areas? There's that daycare center there. We might need a couple of spots that are left open for dropping off, but I think we all agree that there's too many commercial vehicles over there, and villages can impose their own parking regulations on state roads, but the state has to approve your plan. I believe that I received this communication regarding the Montrose Sewer Improvement District. Is that something that'll be on the agenda for next month, or do we know that?
It's just an update on the meeting that was there for the board.
Okay. Because I think there are some aspects of it that we might need to discuss, so I personally would like to see that on the agenda. I would like to also, as I've asked in the past, ask residents, with everything else going on, still one of the most important things for this board and this village is enforcement and protecting the quality of life we have here. And so I'm going to specifically, once again, remind people, if you believe that there are illegal apartments in your neighborhood, and you don't want to confront your neighbor or be the person that's named, please contact the village administrator, please contact the building inspector, or go on send me an email and I'll bring the news to the village hall. And the email will go to nzachary@villageofbuchanan.com, NZACHARY @villageofbuchanan.com. Send me an email about it where you suspect there's an illegal apartment. And, we want to try and stay on top of these things. And the last thing I want to ask is that people take care with their littering in the village. I appreciate that Trustee Jackson often mentions this, and it's an important thing. I think I got laughed at last year when I brought up the idea of how many cigarette filters I was picking up, because those cigarette filters that people don't even think of as trash, but they toss out, those cigarette filters wind up in the storm drains, wind up in the river, wind up in the ocean, and I feel that I feel kind of vindicated, because since then I have read a couple of things in the newspaper. One was a study on CNN coming out of an oceanic organization study, and I saw a couple of articles in the last couple of months that indicated that cigarette filters are the largest component of all that plastic sludge floating in the oceans. Over 20% of all that plastic, that sea of plastic that's in the oceans now, is cigarette filters. all that plastic that is getting consumed by fish that you are eating, so it's in you. So take care. If you could take that cigarette filter, when I used to smoke, I'd break the tobacco off, because that decomposes, and and hold the filter for a garbage pail. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but let's be careful about littering and things that go into the storm drains and plastic use in general where you don't need to. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, just one thing. You brought up about the illegal apartments, and neighbors should contact, especially the building inspector. There might be dangerous situations going on with your neighbor. Who knows? But they have an outside fire or something too close to their house, and most of our houses are all wood frame houses, so you can see on television how fast fires can spread. So it's not being mean to your neighbor, it's trying for your safety. And lastly, I just want to say happy birthday, Susan. Dwayne?
Thank you, Richard. First of all, let me, as a trustee and as a village resident, apologize to Sergeant Farrell. This incident that happened this evening, which I'm going to say I had very little knowledge of, taking this item off the agenda, which I opposed to do if I would have had an opportunity to vote on it. So my apologies to you personally, because as I've said, both behind closed doors and to the public, having our local jurisdiction control our own jurisdiction, you can't put a price on it. You can't put a price on it. And I think some of the evidence that was given tonight, anecdotally, of people talking about what we have, and God knows I've always talked about, as a village resident, what drove me to be here was because the fact that it was small town America. So my apologies to you, Sergeant. I will do all that I can do to make sure we smooth out this road and that we move forward, certainly under your leadership, and you indeed have my support. We're going to be moving forward in the spring with the time capsule, which is going to be an exciting time. We've got the kids over at BV that are going to be filling out little forms talking about what their favorite movie is and different things that they've done in school. And we will be putting the time capsule here on the lawn at the village lawn, and also planting a tree. So we're looking forward to that, to have the young kids involved with that. It will be a 25-year time capsule, so your grandkids will be able to, oh yeah, Sharon, I'm talking about you. Open it up, and you know, it's a great way for communityism and to get the school kids involved in history and some of the things that we've done not only in the Hudson Valley but certainly here in Buchanan. So I look forward to doing that this spring with the young people over at BB. And to all our municipal workers, from the office staff to the highway department to the guys who are grabbing leaves to the foremans and the guys over in the sewer plant, we appreciate all that you do. You certainly have my continued support, because you're not going to find this at too many places in New York. You know, we're of a last breed, kind of, sort of. And I want to do all that I can do as a trustee to hold on to that. As a 26-year resident of the village, I want to be able to continue that so the next generation can have a glimpse of what we've enjoyed, certainly for me, over the last 25 years. And as Brother Cheech would say, spring training is in 2 weeks.
Buses are on the way.
The buses are on the way.
Buses are on the way.
And thank you all for coming out this evening.
Comments from the floor, anybody?
Tangent, 240 Catherine Street. This is probably not the forum for this, but I watched January's meeting, and Nick, you gave an opinion on marijuana, and that you would like to see it legalized. And I would like to have on record why I am vehemently opposed to having marijuana legalized. I don't think it was the right forum for you to do that. Considering we have a rampant drug and opiate epidemic in our state and country, just tonight, you gave an account of someone that had to be revived. There is dangerous chemical content in marijuana. It affects the need for drug dependency, and it affects brain development. To say that a person cannot become a drug addict through marijuana is like saying you can't become an alcoholic on beer. It's the same difference as far as I'm concerned. Law enforcement has no measure to determine if a person is on marijuana or on drugs while driving a car, such as a breathalyzer. They can only go by what they see, and that does not stand up in a court of law. And we will have more and more people driving under the influence. It is too high of a price to pay. The only reason why we want to legalize marijuana, and it's going to open up a whole Pandora's box, is for money, because we're going to have we're going to get taxes. And you can put an age limit on it. It doesn't work. Smoking is illegal. You're not supposed to buy cigarettes. And what we do need is education against drug. We ought to be spending the money on education to prevent drug use. We need more money for public service announcements, just like we had for cigarette smoking, and it has diminished cigarette smoking. And that's all I have to say. I want my opinion out there, too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the comments, Dan. I also, just to clarify, I realize that there are potential problems with it, but my main reason for saying that is because I think the government is allowing certain things and banning certain things arbitrarily. Let me finish. Okay? Personally, I think more people are their health is being destroyed by alcohol. Their health is being destroyed by cigarettes. Should the government ban cigarettes and alcohol? I mean, I think if you're going to address public health concerns, recreational, having a glass of wine is not harmful. Probably recreational use of pot is not harmful. The risks are there's always going to be a percentage of people that don't just have a glass of wine but become serious overusers, alcoholics. There's always going to be, tap me.
Yeah.
So for me, the thing is, where do you draw the line on what the government regulates, and how do you justify allowing certain things and not others? That was my feeling.
All right,
I didn't come to have a dialogue on that. I will put my thoughts in writing to my governor, to all of my, those who represent me, and I would ask that any of you here who feel like I do, that maybe as public servants, you also will put it in writing how you feel about it.
I respect that opinion, because it's not a black and white issue. It's a very, to me, it's a very.
That's where it belongs. I'm going to
Thank you. Anybody else?
Brian Calabro again, 226 Travis Avenue. Not to just keep it going, but you said you weren't around today to make a vote on whatever changes made as far as the chief of police, right? How many members or how many trustees on the board need to be present in order to make a quorum to make such a decision?
3 is a quorum.
So so the mayor wasn't here, right? So which trustees made that decision?
To take it off the agenda you're talking about?
In order to not
I think sorry if I didn't make it clear. I think the mayor's intentions were is that she wanted to be more transparent. So she didn't want to go ahead with saying we're going to do this and then later on talk about a part-time police chief. That's what I think the reasoning was. I won't swear to it, but I think it was. And Dwayne was informed. Dwayne, I called you at your house, and I left a message.
You need 3 to make a quorum, 3 trustees for a quorum.
Let me just correct you for a second. The mayor sets the agenda, and she doesn't need anyone.
Okay,
so she can take it off the agenda. So if that's what you're asking.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
So she can do that. Why it wasn't formally, I think she was probably going to do it or amend the agenda when she came in, but she didn't
Right.
come in.
so it's hard to
Probably
be
should have formally
transparent when
amended.
you're not here. So then the other question, the other thing, because you guys had mentioned, you were talking about the inspector, the building inspector.
No.
Then you had mentioned that it's quiet this time of year, and I'm a little offended by that because I'm trying to obtain a building permit to build on my home, and the village hasn't attempted to work with me like at all. After emails and discussions, it's pretty much just said, throw me to the curb. They haven't had, we brought up having meetings about it, and discussions.
Wait.
The mayor has to have discussions with me about it, and, you know, so to say we're quiet this time of year, it's not true.
Yeah, but that's,
Are you talking
Wait a
about
second.
Anthony, the building inspector in particular?
Well, I'm saying, you said you were quiet this time of
Building
year.
department, Anthony.
Right, yeah, he's got nothing to do. Right.
I'm not saying he's nothing to
And
do.
you're,
Right.
and you're waiting on him?
Well, I'm waiting on the village. I'm just saying, it's, you know,
No,
it's
no, no, I'm
not, it's
trying
not
to
they're
understand
quiet.
what you're
we don't
waiting
have
on,
to
I'm
do-
sorry. I didn't know you were waiting on anything, so I'm kind of.
Right. I'm just saying, it's not like he's not busy. He's got things to do. The whole village has things to do. It just, you know, the residents.
You were asking for a variance, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on planning, was it, or zoning?
Oh, I talked to Barbara. I went
Yeah.
to workshop meetings. I did everything.
And you didn't get the variance?
I haven't, you know, hard to hear back. I sent emails. I never get anything back. You know, I hear one thing from the mayor. It's, yeah, we're working for you. Then nothing.
Okay,
So it's,
well, I'll talk to Teresa about it, let her know that
Hold on.
you brought this up tonight. I mean,
Can I
you shouldn't
just-
have to wait forever.
Let me just clarify
Yeah,
something.
go ahead.
Only because I'm involved in the zoning
Okay,
issue.
yeah.
And the only thing I remember is that it would take a zone text amendment. Did you have counsel, David Garcia?
yeah.
All right, he and I have spoken a couple of times,
Right.
so I'm not sure whether it's the village or somebody else that's supposed to be getting back to you. I don't think that,
Well, I
until
sat
you
with
bring a
the,
petition or until this board decides to amend the zoning, there's nothing else that's gonna happen.
well,
I don't want you to feel ignored.
I kind of feel ignored.
Okay, because
So,
I mean.
just to throw it out there, just because you guys said we're slow, I mean, we're not. There's plenty to do.
That has nothing to do with the building department, though.
Oh.
That would need a zoning change or a change.
Well,
of the board.
his input, you know.
And as far as you know, you weren't given a zoning change yet, a
Well, I
variance.
don't think you formally
That's
went
it.
to
I don't want
the,
to turn
zoning
it around
board.
too town, but I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far off the beaten path, but I'm just saying, there's plenty to do. He's, you know, it's not that slow this time.
that's not in his court right now. If you went to the zoning board, they could look at it, but if it's not allowed by zoning, their hands are tied. When this came up, I think it's a bad practice to spot zone. The board should not be telling one property, okay, we're gonna let you do what you want, because there's a zoning that applies to the whole village. I believe I suggested at the time, we could review the code in general, to see if there's anything that would benefit, something that's not fair in there, or something that would affect the whole village and other properties, and that's what the attorney is referring to as a zoning text amendment. But we can't base a decision on a single property.
Well, you know,
So that's not in the
just
building
say-
inspector's court.
Not to push go any further, but, you know, you're talking about, you know, you have a person trying to invest in the village, you guys are talking about budget. You know, investment, budget. You know, you guys got to come to a conclusion, work
No,
together.
I agree, no, I agree with you. It shouldn't, I'll ask Teresa about it, and what the situation is going on. Okay, thanks very much.
Rich, let me just say again, 2 hours notification on an agenda item that's being removed was quite disturbing to me.
Well, that's what we all got.
Yeah, well,
But certain things
again, I
happen.
just want to go.
Only the mayor can answer this question, so
Right.
don't address it to me.
Okay. Well, I address it to the citizens of the village. And as I've said before, I apologize to the sergeant because it should not have been taken off the agenda as far as I was concerned. I think the vote should have still continued. And since the mayor is not here to tell why she did this, I can't speak for her. But as one long vote, I would have had this done tonight. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Thank you. Are we going to executive session? What?
If you guys want an update on the contract, it's up to you.
What do you guys want?
It doesn't
Better to
matter.
wait for
If we
Teresa,
have-
you
Got
think?
somebody, Rich?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jeremy wants to talk, speak.
100% clear. Is the part-time chief a decision that has been made and is firm that that is the route that the village is going once you put an ad out and choose someone to hire, or is it exploratory?
Well, it hasn't been voted on, so it's as of yet.
This is,
The
Hasn't been voted
decision
on.
has not been made to go
No, the
either
final decision has
full-time
not
or
been made,
part-time.
no. We just want to try to be transparent, tell the citizens where we're going, what we're thinking of, and what path we're going down.
So in other words, we're going to ask Shane to continue to act as a chief for another month without knowing if we're actually going to give him the opportunity to become the chief.
Well,
Not as far as I'm concerned, but then again,
He's the acting chief, right?
I mean, he is
Yes.
the senior.
And he's not being given
senior.
the
He's the
chief.
most senior person, yes.
And he's not given the
Yeah.
title yet,
And
so
he's
we're
a
asking him to
sergeant,
perform
yes.
a duty for another month after we strung him along and then pulled the rug out at the
I'm
11th.
not sure how everything works on this level, but it's
So-
like in the federal government, if your branch chief retires, and you're the supervisor, and you're the most senior one, you do the work of it, and you don't get paid any more money.
Right. But
And
as a-
that's the way it is for me. I don't know, what was it like in New York, you know?
Yeah, no, that's very similar. He has to formally be appointed as an interim chief. But until that comes, he's expected to perform the jobs of.
Is it normal to tell someone they're going to be given that appointment and then in the 11th hour remove it?
I would probably say.
Because that's what just transpired, if I understand correctly. I'm not worried about an agenda item. I just want to
clarify one more
understand.
thing, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify one more thing? Because I think there's when you're appointed provisional, I think Shane should know this.
He may. I don't.
No, I know, and I don't know that Shane does, because everything seems to be so confusing. When you're appointed provisional, that's not a guarantee that you're getting, even if you pass the test, right?
Right.
He could be interviewed with other people. Provisional appointment can be taken back at any time. So it wasn't, if this went on tonight, let's say they appointed him provisional, and 30 days from now, they started looking at part-time chiefs. They hire him. You know what I mean?
I do. Now I do.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I would have
So-
thought once you make the appointment, it was under the assumption that you were going to continue the process unless he failed to meet the expected requirements like passing the test.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
But in most cases, they stay provisional, they pass the test, and they're interviewed, or they're right, and they're
Yeah, then they
probationary, and then they
get
may
the
get made,
probationary,
right,
correct.
after a probationary period.
Yeah.
But it's not a guarantee, once you make a provisional appointment, that person, because the test could be a year from now, right? Doesn't mean
It's
you're going
not.
to stay
It's next month,
provisionally.
though, right? It's
Yeah.
in March.
Who called for that test? Did we, or did they?
The county calls for these tests.
But I mean,
Whether
did we ask them?
participate or not.
And we're
Right.
participating, yes?
Yeah. So it's in a
Okay.
month.
Okay. But I'm just for it could be a year from now, it could be 2 years from now, before like a county, on any other situation, and you got a provisional employee, doesn't mean
What
they're
was that
staying
for?
for 2 years with you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. That's fair. Thank
Contracts.
you. And thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming.